Hello and welcome to our newscast. I'm Hwang Jie, live from Seoul. Korea has brought down the hammer on Chinese fishermen illegally poaching in Korea's seas, saying the use of weapons by Chinese crews will no longer be tolerated. It's also called for swift and sincere measures by the Chinese government, calling in Beijing's ambassador to Seoul. All this as China attempts to play down the issue. Kwon So-ah has more.
South Korea's foreign ministry summoned China's ambassador to Seoul Tuesday to protest last week's sinking of a Korean Coast Guard vessel by a Chinese vessel fishing illegally in the West Sea. Deputy Foreign Minister Kim Hyung-jin called Ambassador Chu Guo-hong to his office and demanded measures to prevent such incidents from recurring. The ministry had already lodged a complaint Sunday and summoned China's Consul General in Seoul. The government's action to raise the level of protest demonstrates the seriousness of the threat.
Considering the gravity and seriousness of the incident, we demand the Chinese government swiftly carry out measures such as an investigation, arrest and punishment of the attackers and vessel.
Seoul's deputy foreign minister was said to have emphasized that the incident represents a straight act of defiance against the South Korean government's authority, as well as a direct and systematic provocation against South Korea's law enforcement authority. Beijing's ambassador said the Chinese government is dealing with the issue in a sincere and responsible manner and that it will work with South Korea to find a solution. But while the Chinese officials in Seoul were said to have expressed their grievances on the issue, the Chinese Foreign Ministry's stance was somewhat different. The ministry spokesperson Geng Shuang said Monday during a regular press briefing that China hopes South Korea will handle the issue in a reasonable and cool-headed manner with consideration for the dual interests of bilateral ties and regional stability. With these conflicting positions, it remains to be seen how active the Chinese government will be in dealing with the problem and whether the issue could put a dent in Seoul-Beijing ties. Kwon So-ah, ARIRANG News.
The UN Security Council's sanctions on North Korea for its September 9th nuclear test are expected to be even tougher than those imposed as part of the current resolution adopted in March. When asked about China's stance on the measures, U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for East Asian and Pacific Affairs Daniel Russel told reporters that it's very important to make progress. He added that all members of the Security Council, including China, agree on that. The U.S. official also emphasized that unilateral measures are important to counter North Korea's nuclear and missile threats. Samsung Electronics has permanently shut down production of its ill-fated Galaxy Note 7 after a global recall and replacement fell flat. But this is not just about the hundreds of millions of dollars of losses that are seen immediately, experts say. It could leave the Samsung's credibility hanging by a thread. Kim Min-ji reports.
The world's #1 smartphone maker, Samsung Electronics, has announced that it will suspend production of the Galaxy Note 7. This comes after the company said earlier in the day it would temporarily stop sales and replacements globally of the phablet. Samsung said as consumer safety is its top priority, all global partners will be asked to halt sales and exchanges as an investigation takes place into whether or not the replacement phones are actually safe to use, following at least 8 cases of the new Note 7's catching fire. The recent fire incidents took place mainly in the U.S., while one such case has been reported in Korea, China, and Taiwan each. Samsung said it has been looking into the recently reported cases with the relevant regulatory bodies in those markets. The latest move comes just over a month after Samsung announced a global recall of 2.5 million Note 7s within days of its release, following several reports of the device catching fire while charging, and offered replacements or a full refund. Samsung has advised consumers with the original Note 7 or a replacement to stop using the device altogether, adding that refunds or exchanges for a different model will be available until the end of the year.
All this happened within 2 months since the Galaxy Note 7 was released back on August 19th. The global recall itself is expected to cost Samsung up to $2 billion, but damages could be even greater given the impact it may have on the company's brand image overall.
Now it's the second time, so this time it might affect the brand loyalty. And already we think this affected the other Samsung products as well. Even small problem in other Samsung Galaxy phones, people kind of link that to the Note 7. So this time, I think it will affect the consumers' perception of the Samsung brand overall as well. In our monthly sales checks, we already are seeing other Samsung products being impacted by the Note.
The production suspension is a de facto indication of a premature termination of the flagship phablet and is expected to take a toll on the company's fourth quarter earnings. Samsung shares also tumbled on the local market, closing down over 8% on Tuesday. Kim Min-ji, ARIRANG News.
And the world's two biggest smartphone makers, Samsung and Apple, are squaring off at the U.S. Supreme Court over their long-running design patent dispute. In 2012, a jury found that some Samsung smartphones infringed 3 patents on aspects of the iPhone's design, including its face and rounded bezel design and its icon arrangement. Samsung is challenging the $399 million it paid to Apple last year, which is the entire profit of the sales of its Galaxy S model. It says the amount should be much smaller. The Korean tech giant's lawyers compared the situation to forfeiting all profits from a car because the cup holder infringes on a patent. Apple says the infringed patents were closer to the design of an entire car, and that Samsung failed to show the patents were relevant to just parts of its devices. The Supreme Court is expected to issue a final ruling by the end of June. And that wraps it up for now. Thanks for watching. I'm Hong Jie. Do stay tuned to ARIRANG News at 10 a.m. Korea time for more news updates with Mark Broom, and goodbye.